Chapter 1. Nightfall. Rain fell in lazy sheets, blurring the neon glow of street lamps into ghostly halos. Detective Rowan Black stood under her umbrella, the slick brim casting a shadow over tired blue eyes. Below the canopy of the crisscrossing roads, crimson pooled on cracked asphalt. She knelt at the victim's side. A man in his mid-40s, sharply dressed but soaked through. His last breath was frozen in a silent gasp. Beside him, a single white orchid lay on the pavement. Impossible in this city of grit. "Forensics is 5 minutes out," Rowan murmured into her collar mic. She twisted the umbrella so the rain wouldn't wash away the faint footprints trailing from the gutter. From the shadows, the street musician emerged. Patchy coat, battered saxophone case in hand. His eyes darted nervously. "Saw someone run off," he said, voice trembling. "Tall, hood up, left towards Pier 9. Rowan looked up. The waterfront lay a block away, boats bobbing like drowned ghosts. She crouched to study the orchid's petals. No sign of soil or water droplets. Someone had carried it here deliberately. She straightened, voice low. "You're doing the right thing. Tell me everything you saw." His fingers drummed on the case, timorous. He swallowed. He didn't look human. Face all pale, no eye whites, just black holes. He shivered. I heard him whisper her name. Marina. Over and over. Rowan's pulse quickened. Marina, that had been the name on her last cold case board. A socialite found dead in almost the same spot 8 months ago. Ritualistic circle of orchids placed around her. A calling card the department never cracked. She glanced at the yellow crime scene tape snapping in the wind. "Stay here," she said, raising a hand. "I'm going after him." 2 squad cars roared in, lights bouncing off puddles. Rowan snapped on gloves and lifted her head. Somewhere out there the killer had left his signature again. This time he'd slipped. Her phone buzzed. Partner Marisol's name flashed. She tapped out, "I'm on him." Rowan took a step forward, sliding her umbrella closed. She was alone in the mist-laced street, chasing a ghost and racing against a pattern only she could see. The scent of wet asphalt and orchids clung to her trench coat as she plunged into the darkness towards Pier 9. A faint scrape echoed. She froze. Then a flutter of motion by the old freight warehouse. The musician's shaky tip had been right. Hood up, tall, and gone. She advanced, torch in hand, every sense sharpened. The drip of water, the soft slap of boots on metal grating. Ahead, a sliver of light revealed flickering graffiti, a neon orchid with a dagger through its stem. Rowan pressed her hand to the wall. That symbol hadn't appeared since Marina's murder. Whoever wore this stencil was telling her they were still in control. She swallowed and whispered, "Not tonight." With a deep breath, she pushed through the door. Darkness swallowed her. Somewhere inside, the killer waited. And the game was just beginning. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Rain. Rowan sat in a corner booth at O'Malley's Diner, porcelain mug cradled between gloved fingers. Steam curled off the coffee, but the chill still bit through her coat. 10 minutes earlier, she'd escorted the street musician, Kevin Keys Morales, inside for warmth and a dry pad to sketch on. His sax case lay slumped by the chair, as if even carrying it was a burden. He stared at the chipped Formica tabletop, tapping a restless rhythm. "Look," he whispered, voice rough as gravel. "I drew him." He slid a folded sheet of paper across. The interior light glowed harshly, making his pencil lines tremble. A tall silhouette, hooded figure, face blank but for 2 gaping black sockets. Around the head, petals floated like a macabre crown. Rowan traced the sketch with her eyes. It matched the witness's description, but what unsettled her most was the posture. Arms lifted, as if offering something. "What did you hear?" she asked, leaning forward. His gaze flicked up. Whispering. Soft, no accent I could place. He kept saying 2 names. He clenched his jaw. Marina and Bianca. Rowan's heart stuttered. Bianca hadn't popped up on any cold case board. She set her mug down, porcelain clinking. "Who's Bianca?" "I don't know," he said. He rubbed his palms together, then pressed them flat on the table. "But wherever he went next, I think he left a trail." She watched him carefully. Kevin was no hardened criminal, just another soul trying to make life in this city. If he'd risked talking to a cop, something had rattled him. "Show me." He unfolded a crumpled map of the downtown grid. Rainwater had smeared half the ink, but you could still see the waterfront, the pier, and a series of tiny crosses marking alleys. I followed the footprints from the scene. These lead north, toward the old subway entrance. He tapped a mark at the corner of Canal and Monroe. Then he doubled back along Bell Street, cut through some service tunnels under the streets, then popped up by the west entrance to Evans Station. Rowan frowned. The tunnels had been sealed years ago, officially condemned, but rumors said they ran beneath half the city, perfect for someone who wanted to vanish. "You sure you didn't lose him?" "Positive." He paused in every dark corner, turned like he was listening, then moved on. It was like watching a ghost pace its grave. His voice quavered. He glanced toward the door as a waitress refilled their mugs. He wasn't human, detective, not human. He didn't need to clarify. The description matched the whisper in the rain back at the scene. But Rowan's training forbade her from chasing phantoms. "Names first." She slid a notepad forward. "We'll need your full statement. Where you live, everything." She pictured Marisol Cruz rolling her eyes. Marisol was all about procedure. But this city kept its secrets in shadows. Only those who ventured close could glimpse the shape of truth. Kevin's hand hovered above the pages. He glanced at the door again, then shook his head. "Not here. I'm afraid they'll see me talking to you." He scribbled a name and address on the back of the map. "I live in a basement apartment on Pine near the rail yard. Come after midnight, no cops around." Rowan hesitated. She liked her partner's company, but if Kevin's fear was real, a lone detective moving through alleys might spook him less. She pocketed the map and his address. "Midnight it is. I'll bring a recorder and a photo lineup. Anything else you can remember? Voices, footsteps, that whisper, write it down." He nodded, drained his coffee. "Thank you, detective. I don't want to see another body." He stood, yanked on his coat, and bolted into the rain. Rowan watched him go, then stepped outside. A gust scattered neon reflections across the wet street. She let the door swing shut with a click. Rain hammered the pavement. She lifted her collar against the wind and dialed Marisol's number. "Rowan." Marisol answered on the first ring, voice crisp. "How's the musician?" "Shaky, but alive," Rowan said. "He's willing to talk at midnight. He marked a trail from Canal to Evans." She glanced at her watch, 7:02 p.m. He heard the name Bianca. Ever see that in the files? Marisol's sigh crackled through the line. "No, Bianca. Victims were all women of means. Marina St. James, Layla Torres, Fiona Wu. No pattern beyond the orchids and the whisper." She paused. "You okay?" Rowan stared at the nightclub sign down the block. The electric siren, flickering in blue and purple. "Yeah, I'm fine." She ended the call and slipped her phone into her pocket. Every instinct told her the tunnels held answers. But investigating abandoned underpasses alone was reckless, and Kevin's description, something otherworldly, hinted at a deeper myth threading through the killings. Yet, her partner's voice was steady in her head. Procedure first, lead second. She folded her arms and marched toward the station. Neon signs and trash cans blur into the mist. Each step snapped echoes off brick walls. Somewhere beneath the city, someone, something, watched her. Back at Precinct HQ, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Marisol raised an eyebrow as Rowan entered forensics. She stood over a computer screen, perilously close to a half-eaten sandwich. A printout lay beside her. Mugshots of former club owners, night shift workers, anyone with access to exotic flowers. "Bianca doesn't show up," Marisol said, tapping the printouts. "No records, no missing person report. Someone pulled a clean slate." Rowan leaned over. "What about unregistered immigrants? Could be a street name." Marisol shook her head. "Nothing in fingerprints, dental, DNA. The orchid petals from last night were contaminated. Pollen from a rare South American cultivar, nearly extinct in cultivation here. I sent samples to the botanical lab." "Exotic orchids," Rowan mused. "That fits a collector's profile." She rubbed her temple. "Could Bianca be his next target?" Marisol frowned at the screen. "Possible, but if she isn't in the system, we can't prevent her murder." She spun to face Rowan. "You planning to chase tunnels tonight?" Rowan studied her partner's face. Marisol often acted like a drill sergeant, keen on backup, body cams, radio check-ins. But tonight, Rowan needed solitude. "I'll circle back once I've scoped the area. Just let the captain know I'll be off-grid." Marisol's lips tightened. "Promise you'll check in by 1?" Rowan raised one eyebrow. "Midnight at Pine and 6th?" "Exactly." Marisol flipped off her computer. "Don't do anything stupid." "I'll bring Kevin in safely," Rowan said, half-smiled, turning serious. "And maybe find Bianca before he does." An hour later, Rowan approached the corner basement on Pine. Streetlights sputtered, paint peeled from boarded-up windows, and a freight train rumbled past, shaking loose debris. She parked 3 blocks away and ducked into the shadows, holstering her Glock and shouldering a backpack with a spare flashlight, gloves, and the portable recorder. At midnight sharp, a single light flicked on in the basement window. Rowan crept across cracked pavement, listening to her own breath. She tapped twice on the metal door. The light winked off. She tapped thrice. Footsteps scuffed inside. The door creaked open. Kevin's eyes were wide slits against the lamplight. His sax case leaned behind him like a broken sentinel. His coat hung open, revealing a threadbare sweater. "Detective," he hissed, "you shouldn't have come." She raised her hands, voice calm. "I'm here to help. Let's talk." He stepped back, nearly tripping over a coil of pipe. Rowan slipped inside. The room smelled of damp concrete and old vinyl. A single bulb overhead cast long shadows. She flicked on her recorder and a headlamp. "Start from the top," she said. He swallowed. Lips trembled. "After I left the diner, I followed him to Evans. I stayed hidden by the old turnstiles. He walked right through the gate, like it was open. Then he followed an elevated trackmate's way, climbed a rusted ladder, and disappeared through a hole in the ceiling." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "An access hatch. Chicago had similar maintenance shafts, but most were sealed. Could no one else use it?" "No one official," Kevin said, voice cracking. "But people say someone reopened them for smuggling. Stashes, drugs, worse." Rowan clicked the recorder off. "Why Bianca? What's her name?" He looked down. "She's not a who, it's what, it's..." A book. He finally met her gaze. Bianca Papillon. A cult manifesto, their copies hidden in digital black markets, and pages carved into victims. Wind rattled the window. Rowan's pulse thundered. A cult manual. A rare orchid. Ritual murders. This went beyond a serial killer, it was ceremony. She tapped the recorder back on. Tell me about the book. Kevin swallowed. They say Bianca Papillon was a poet in the 1800s. Wrote about rebirth through death. Her words are addictive. People do anything to read the original pages. They call it the Ledger of Lilies. A chill wormed up Rowan's spine. Lily for death, orchid for mourning. So the victims aren't chosen at random. No. Kevin shook his head, shivering. Their pages, Marina, Layla, Fiona, they all had copies hidden on their person. He took a petal, then he stole their words. Rowan exhaled, mind racing. The pattern snapped into focus. A ritual to feed on souls through ink and blood. We're not hunting a man, she whispered. We're hunting a believer. Kevin backed away. He knows you know. You have to warn Marisol. Rowan rose, clicking off the recorder. She's already in the loop. You're safe now. She slung the sax case over her shoulder. An odd talisman. Come on, let's get you out of here. Outside, the city seemed to hold its breath. Neon reflections shimmered in puddles. Sirens wailed far off. Rowan locked eyes with Kevin. Stay close. Don't speak to anyone tonight but me. We'll bring him down together. As they slipped into the rain, Rowan glanced back at the shuttered window. Somewhere inside, the collector of pages prepared his next ritual. And this time, the stakes were higher than a single life. They were fighting for every word he'd ever written, and every secret he'd ever kept. Chapter 3. Neon Clues. The lab's fluorescent lights felt more oppressive than the darkest alley. Detective Rowan Black hovered over the microscope, breath fogging the glass shield. Pale green pollen lay scattered across the slide. Orchid pollen, but not local. Exotic, South American. The forensic botanist, Dr. Machen, peered through her own lens. Dendrobium cruentum, she murmured, adjusting focus. Very rare. Grows in subtropical cloud forests, virtually impossible to source here without a black market connection. She tapped the slide. And these metallic flecks look like residue from automotive paint. Rowan's pulse quickened. She hovered her badge near the sample tray. Paint chip from what kind of vehicle? May scrolled through her catalog. Formula 1 red, high-gloss, clear coat. Almost identical to a modified Ferrari 458, only seen on a handful of machines in the city. Outside the lab window, dusk settled. Neon signs flickered. Rain misted the glass. Rowan pictured the killer slipping through rain-slick streets, pedals in one hand, a dripping stiletto in the other. So, our florist has a fast car. She scribbled notes. Log any registered Ferraris with aftermarket paint jobs, and cross-check owners linked to Orchid Imports. May nodded, already tapping at her keyboard. I'll alert Customs and Imports. She slid the slide into a sealed evidence bag. And, Detective, your partner found digital fragments of that Bianca Papillon text in the last victim's phone? Rowan closed her notebook. Yes. Corrupted files, but enough to piece together several passages. She cleared her throat. Someone's distributing illegal downloads of the manifesto, and carving the victim's skin to extract the page numbers. May's eyes widened. Gruesome, she paused. This obsession runs deeper than ritual. It's sacrificial. Rowan rose, gloved hands resting on the counter. The electric siren is the key. All three victims had club access 2 nights before their murders. She gestured toward the skyline, purple haze bleeding into neon. Simone Veil's Den of Decadence. Later that night, Rowan slipped through the club's back entrance beneath a garish mural of a siren tangled in electric cables. The air inside vibrated with bass so low it knocked at your chest. Strobe lights painted the crowd in electric blues and magentas. Shadows twisted over exposed brick, and dancers writhed like fireflies caught in static. She threaded through bodies, her eyes trained on the bar's patrons and the bouncer, a hulking man with a shaved head and a skull tattoo behind his ear. Rowan offered her badge quietly. He studied it, then stepped aside without a word. Behind the bar, Simone Vale leaned over black lacquer countertops, smoothing bright red lips. She wore a violet tuxedo jacket over a sheer black bodice. A single white orchid was pinned to her lapel. When she noticed Rowan, her violet irises narrowed. "Detective," Simone purred, voice smoky as violet smoke. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Rowan smiled thinly. "Club inspections, noise complaints, pollen control." She held up a sealed evidence bag with orchid petals and red paint flecks. Simone's hand stilled. "I cultivate rare orchids," Simone said, eyes flicking to the petals. "Dendrobium cruentum is part of my collection, imported legally. I'm authorized by the Botanical Society." Rowan raised an eyebrow. "Your permit expired last month." She watched Simone's veneer slip for a beat. "You renewed?" Simone's lips curved into a knowing smile. "I did, but perhaps the city hasn't updated its files." She waved a manicured hand. "Check again. I have nothing to hide." Rowan caught the bartender's eye. A lean woman with festival-style tattoos and angry black eyeliner. She mouthed, "She's lying." Rowan nodded imperceptibly. She turned back to Simone. "Other thing, your club's paint scheme. We traced metallic red flecks matching a Ferrari 458's finish to your private parking garage." Simone's smile froze. "That's impossible." She stepped forward, low-voiced. "I don't own a Ferrari." Rowan leveled her gaze. "But someone's driving one. Late nights, arrivals and departures at odd hours. Maybe someone you authorized to park here?" Simone tucked a strand of platinum hair behind her ear. "My security team uses black SUVs. Always official plates." She unclasped the orchid and dropped it into Rowan's gloved palm. "Here! My flower. Take it." Rowan stared at the blossom's pristine petals. There was no residue, no smudged pollen. "You expect me to believe you're innocent?" Simone's lips twitched. "I expect you to believe that I have more to lose than you can imagine." She snapped her fingers, and the bouncer closed ranks behind Rowan. "But you're welcome to search." Rowan gestured at the crowd. "I will." Down in the private garage, the strobe-lit dance floor vanished for echoing silence. Concrete pillars lined rows of luxury cars, each one roped off. Heads bent over hoods. Club patrons counted whispered wagers. Rowan clicked on her flashlight and swept the beams along vehicles. Black Audis, 2 SUVs. A single red blur at the far end. Ferrari. She slipped the tape from her pocket, laced the 458's tire. No disturbance, clean. No fresh scratches in its red coat. But under the wheel well, her beam found something. A scrap of paper, edges torn. Fish scale scripts sprawled over it, red ink bleeding into the grain. "I embrace the blade, the hush of night, the bloom of white." She snapped a photo, a dagger's promise, another stanza from Bianca Papillon's pages. Behind her, footsteps clicked. She spun, gun drawn. Simone stood in the gloom, orchid in hand once more. "You see my car," Simone said softly. "Not his." She held out a folded document. Rowan glared. "What's that?" Simone extended it, revealing a covert transfer of the Ferrari. She'd brokered it as a showpiece for a private patron. A third party, never registered in her name. I don't touch personal vehicles. Simone's nails tapped the paper. He's using my clientele supply chain. The orchid shipments, the black market art, he hides in plain sight. Rowan hesitated. If Simone lied, she risked letting the killer slip away. Yet, something in Simone's steady calm felt genuine. Who is he? Simone folded the document, dark eyes unwavering. I'll tell you what I know, but you've got to get out of the garage. Live. She stepped closer, voice low. You're poking at a ghost in a suit. You'll end up in his ledger next. Rowan swallowed. She felt the slick panic that guests must feel at the electric siren, uncertain if this hostess might sink her claws too. She clipped the paper to her notebook. I'm not leaving until I know his name. Simone smiled, lips red as fresh blood. You'll get it on the burner phone taped under the car, she pointed. Go. Lightning cracked, but they only saw its glow through the garage slats. Rowan edged toward the Ferrari, heart pounding. Every instinct screamed trap, but her partner's words echoed, procedure first. She slipped under the car, phone taped between frame and axle. Fumbling through rain-slippery bolts, she free-handed the handset and pressed it. A single text awaited. Midnight, Warehouse 17, bring the book. No name, no signature, just coordinates and an ultimatum. Footsteps thundered. Rowan yanked herself free, firing a warning shot into the concrete. Dust rained from the ceiling. Simone caught Rowan's gaze, expression grave. Now you know, Simone whispered. A siren wailed, distant but rising. Rowan clicked off her flashlight and tapped the burner phone. Simone slipped back into shadow. She stepped into the night, neon pooling at her feet. Rain mixed with oil and cherry blossoms falling from Simone's orchid lapel. Rowan slipped the phone into her coat, breath white in the wet air. Tonight, she held a clue forged in blood and ink. But every answer unraveled two more questions. Who was at Warehouse 17? What did the book mean? Bianca Papillon's original ledger. And which ghost would meet her in the dark? As she melted into the mist, the neon at her back blinked, the electric siren, and Rowan Black vanished into the hunt. Chapter 4. The Electric Siren. Rain-glazed sidewalks led Rowan Black back to the electric siren, this time without badge or trench coat. She'd swapped her detective's rig for a slinky black dress, heels that clicked on wet pavement, and a silver orchid brooch pinched to the strap. In the neon haze, she looked like any other late-night thrill-seeker searching for escape. Inside, the club throbbed. Bass waves curled around her like fog. Strobe lights carved the crowd into fragments. Rowan's eyes narrowed, scanning for the door to Simone Vale's private salon, a curtained alcove behind the DJ booth. Rumor said that's where Simone hosted her after-hours clientele, those wealthy orchid aficionados who paid handsomely for rarities and secrets. A tall man in a pressed suit approached. "First time?" he asked, offering a silver card. "Signatures on file?" Rowan shook her head. He smiled. "I'm Alcott, security." He flashed his ear mic. "Follow me." He led her past the main floor, through winding corridors decorated with giant orchid murals and flickering candles. Each flame cast dancer's shadows across walls, warping them into blooming petals. They arrived at a red velvet curtain. Alcott tapped twice. A pair of henchmen peered out, nodded, then let Rowan slip inside. The alcove's air smelled of French tobacco and tuberose. Black marble tables held fluted glasses of violet-tinted cocktails. Only a handful of patrons lounged. An art dealer with gold-rimmed glasses, a hedge fund boss in plaid loafers, and a model thin woman whose eyes glittered like shards of obsidian. Simone Vale presided over them all, perched on a high bar stool, backlit by a chandelier of glowing orchids. Simone's gaze drifted to Rowan. She beckoned. "Detective Black," she purred, her voice a low hum. "I wasn't expecting you tonight." Rowan took the offered seat. "I thought I'd see the scene for myself." She lifted her glass. "Your signature blend?" Simone's lips quirked. "Infused with senorita oranges. A Sicilian twist." She watched Rowan sip. Violet-tinged sugar dissolved on her tongue, bright and bitter. The model-thin woman leaned forward. "You're the one asking questions about Bianca Papillon." Her French accent rippled through the word Bianca. She tapped the orchid brooch gleaming on Rowan's strap. "You know, there's only one original ledger." Simone's hand hovered, then drew back. "Gentlemen, ladies, this is entertainment, not an interrogation." She turned back to Rowan. "Tell me, detective, do you believe in ghosts?" Rowan feigned amusement. "Only the ones who kill." A door at the alcove's back clicked open. A server in white gloves carried a tray of single-stem orchids, each one wrapped in black paper. He wove through tables, pressing them into patrons' hands. Rowan watched the boss unwrap his bloom and slip a folded slip of paper between the petals. Every patron studied the note, then tucked it into a jacket pocket. Marina's note, Layla's, Fiona's, all receiving invitations, secret meeting times, book references, whispers of the ledger's next chapter. Rowan's blood ran cold. Simone read her expression. "Our community, those who enjoy rare blooms and rare art, gather here. Private auctions, private tastes. Wouldn't want your musician witness to spoil the fun." A scratchy whisper drifted to Rowan's ear. "Psst, over here." She looked past Simone to see Kevin Morales crouched behind a column, a sax case at his feet, wide eyes pleading. Rowan feigned a dance toward him, slipping away from Simone's gaze. In the shadowed nook, Kevin gasped, "He's here." "I saw him meet a man upstairs. Tall, broad shoulders, wearing a dark fedora. No face, just a silhouette." Rowan nodded. "Stay low, I'll circle back for you." She slid a hand over his shoulder, then pivoted back into the spotlight. Kevin melted into darkness. Above, Simone closed her salon door and toyed with her orchid lapel. She gestured for Rowan to join her on a small stage. Twin spotlights illuminated a lectern and 2 stools. Patrons quieted. Rowan recognized the hedge fund boss and art dealer taking front-row seats, the model-thin woman leaning in. Simone's voice drifted over the hush. "I present tonight's main event, readings from the Bianca Papillon ledger." A robed figure stood behind her, hood drawn low. Electric tension roiled through the crowd. Rowan's breath caught. The stage and the robes matched the graffiti dagger orchid stencil she'd seen at Pier 9. Simone held up a yellowed page and an antique stiletto. "Tonight's chosen guest is..." Her finger drifted across the page's fine script. "Mr. Thaddeus Hale." A stocky old man in the audience stood trembling. 2 bouncers escorted him up. Rowan noted his pallor, the fear in every tremor. He clutched a leather folio. On stage, Simone allowed Hale to recite a passage. "In bloom we ascend. In blood we find truth." A hush followed, then applause. Simone smiled. "Congratulations. You're now part of history." She accepted his folio, flipped to a blank page, and handed him the stiletto. "Write your sacrifice." Rowan tensed. Thaddeus hesitated. Simone's smile curled edgily. "Go on." Before he could comply, Rowan burst onto the stage, badge flashing. "Police! Everybody stay!" Pandemonium erupted. Bottles crashed, bodies scattered. Simone vanished behind curtains. The robed figure slipped off stage. Bouncers pushed Rowan back. Kevin Morales appeared at her side, sax case swinging like a club. Together they wrenched open the curtain, only to find an empty back room stacked with orchid crates and masked mannequins draped in ledger pages. Sirens approached. Rowan holstered her gun. "Get Hale out of here," she ordered Kevin. He scooped up the old man and guided him toward the exit. Outside, rain had washed the street clean, and 2 squad cars drew up. Marisol Cruz jumped out, rifle raised. "What did I miss?" Rowan shook her head, rain mingling with adrenaline. Too late. Simone's ghost slipped away. She opened the alcove door. No Simone. No author of the stenciled dagger orchid. Only crates stamped Prive and orchid petals, fresh, violent white, strewed on the floor. Marisol crouched by one crate, examining its seal. The Botanical Society's emblem. She's laundering shipments through her club. Rowan knelt to collect a dropped page of the ledger, black ink on skin-pale parchment. And tonight's chapter was aborted. She slid it into evidence. But she's giving us coordinates. Marisol frowned at Rowan's soaked hair plastered to her face. "You okay?" Rowan stood, eyes fixed on the curtained entrance. "We go to Warehouse 17, midnight. She's daring us to chase her." As the squad car's lights painted the rain in pulsing blue and red, Rowan felt the hunter's rush. Simone Vale had shown her the stage and slipped into darkness. Now the final act was about to begin. Chapter 5. Cold Case Files. Back at precinct headquarters, the fluorescent hum felt oppressive, like 1,000 moths trapped under glass. Rowan and Marisol stood before the cold case wall. Photos of Marina St. James, Layla Torres, Fiona Wu, each framed by a halo of taped orchids. Underneath, index cards bulged with witness statements, lab reports, even dry orchid petals pressed between plastic. Tonight, they'd shred every fragment in search of a pattern no one else had seen. Marisol swiped off 6 files and laid them across the conference table. All victims were of significant means. Socialites, philanthropists, entrepreneurs. But more than that, they attended charity events featuring rare flowers within weeks of their deaths. She tapped a photo of Fiona at a gala held at the City Museum. Next to it, Layla unveiling a donor plaque at the Orchid Society's annual ball. Marina hosting a fundraiser in her own penthouse conservatory. Rowan pointed to the dates scrawled in red. And each event coincided with a lunar phase. First quarter for Marina, full moon for Layla, last quarter for Fiona. She circled a small diagram on the back of an envelope, a hand-drawn moon chart. He's using the moon as his ritual clock. Marisol nodded, pulling up the Botanical Lab's soil reports. And look at these residue samples. Marina's petals were tainted with a South American fungus, Layla's with a Southeast Asian midicide, Fiona's with Eastern African soil, each victim handling a different cultivar. She paused. He's tracing the orchid's global migratory paths, bringing the world's morning flowers to these women. Rowan inhaled sharply. He's treating each killing as a rite of passage, an offering to the globe's grief. She rifled through a leather binder marked Case 009, The Orchid Murders. Marisol, pull up all charity event planners who specialize in exotic flowers. Marisol tapped at her laptop. Cross-referencing now, got it. One name appears on all 3, Aurora Events, run by an Emma Carlisle. She scrolled. Gala invites, floral installation contracts, tax filings. She operates legally, but there are unexplained cash transfers and 3 unlicensed shipments of orchids matching our lab samples. Rowan closed her eyes. Emma Carlisle. The name felt familiar. She flipped to witness statements. At Marina's gala a year ago, a catering server mentioned Emma arguing with a guest who insisted on a private bouquet. The server overheard the guest threaten to expose Emma's little habit. Marisol pulled up surveillance stills. Emma, in a tailored gray suit, hair in a tight chignon, smile polite but eyes cold. In each photo she brushed an orchid off her lapel. What if Emma is the collector and our killer is her enforcer? Marisol suggested. Or Emma's the bait, Rowan countered. She sources the blooms. Someone else is using her shipments to stage the murders. She stared at the 3 photos, imagining Emma signing contracts while the real predator slipped orchid-stained gloves onto his hands. Marisol leaned back, arms folded. Who benefits from Emma's fall? If she's not our prime, we need to track her next orchid order. She brought up Aurora's invoice ledger. She scheduled another South American shipment, Dendrobium cruentum again, arriving 2 nights from now. Rowan's pulse spiked. For the next charity gala, she accessed Marina Foundation's calendar. They're hosting a midnight banquet in the Botanical Conservatory, sponsored by Aurora Events. Guest list reads like a who's who of the elite. Marisol's fingers flew. I'll put a tail on Carlisle. Run plates on incoming trucks. She glanced at Rowan, voice low. This could be his pattern. Lure socialites with rare orchids, then hunt them. Rowan tapped her phone. The burner Simone had sent her sat cold in her coat pocket. No new messages. She stared at the clock. 2 a.m. We need to loop in the Botanical Society. If we intercept the shipment, we break his next right. Marisol smirked. Good luck stopping a shadow who moves through sealed tunnels. She shut her laptop. Your midnight appointment at Warehouse 17. You're not going alone. Rowan folded her arms. I promised Simone I'd go solo. If I bring backup, she'll vanish. She met Marisol's steady gaze. I need to know what's waiting inside. Marisol sighed. Fine. But if you're hurt, I'm not letting you stew in the cold case room. She flipped off the lights. Get some rest. You've earned it. Rowan lingered as the office emptied. She'd studied the next phase chart. A pen circling marked over the coming full moon in 2 nights. Beneath it, Emma Carlisle's name and Natural World Gala etched in neat letters. She whispered to the tableau of orchids and photographs. I know your pattern now. The hush felt sacred, mournful. Each frozen image begged for justice. Later, in her car, Rowan pulled the editor's red pen from her glove compartment and marked a fresh page in her notebook. Midnight, Warehouse 17. Bring the book. 2 nights, full moon gala at Conservatory, sponsored by Aurora Events. Target, next page of the Bianca Papillon ledger. Victim will be a guest of Emma Carlisle. She folded the sheet and slipped it into her coat, heart drumming in the stillness. Somewhere out there, the collector of pages was orchestrating the world's grief, 1 bloom at a time. And Rowan Black would be waiting. At the warehouse, at the gala, on the knife's edge between life and death. As the last detective lamp blinked off, Rowan locked the cold case files and headed for the door. She knew the next 60 hours would define her career and her soul. In the quiet of the precinct's dark corridors, a single orchid lay on Emma Carlisle's desk. White petals dusted in red soil, petals glinting under the surveillance camera. The killer's signature left for Rowan to find, and the hunt was only halfway done. Chapter 6. Crossing Lines. Rowan woke to her phone buzzing. No badge, no trench coat, just the insistent tone of a threat. Her old flame, journalist Alex Mercer, had been digging into Bianca Papillon and gone dark. A single text sent from Alex's number. "Stop digging or you're next." She met Marisol in a shuttered cafe at dawn. Over bitter coffee, Rowan laid out the message. "He knows I'm close." Marisol's jaw tightened. This isn't just about lilies and ledger pages anymore. That night, Rowan followed a lead to Alex's apartment. The door hung ajar. Inside, scattered notes chronicled Marina's gala, Fiona's fundraiser, Layla's ball, and cryptic maps of the city's subterranean tunnels. No sign of Alex. She did find a USB drive stamped with the club's insignia. Back at her desk, Rowan plugged it in. The folder contained surveillance footage from Simone Vale's salon and a shadowy figure trailing Alex as he interviewed wealthy collectors. The last clip froze on Alex at Warehouse 17, glancing over his shoulder in panic. Rowan's pulse thundered. Alex was bait. The killer was using him to lure her into the tunnels. Marisol insisted on backup, but Rowan slipped out alone into the city's underbelly. She traced Alex's final steps through graffiti-marred corridors, lit only by her flashlight beam. Every drip of water and distant rumble felt like another heartbeat counting her time. At a tunnel junction marked by a dagger orchid stencil, Rowan found Alex's trench coat and pool of dried blood. Anger and dread spurred her forward. If Alex was alive, he was minutes from death. Every instinct told her to run, but Rowan pressed on, deeper into the labyrinth. Chapter 7. Shadows of Truth. Concrete walls closed in as Rowan navigated the tunnels by Alex's map. Her flashlight revealed broken sketches of Bianca Papillon's pages, taped to the walls like sacrificial sigils. She heard shuffling ahead and froze. An indistinct figure slipped around a corner. Rowan gave chase, adrenaline searing her senses. The corridor opened into an abandoned factory. Rusted machinery, shattered windows, puddles reflecting her torchlight. At the far end, Alex lay on cold steel, bound and bruised but alive. A knife glinted in the hand of a hooded figure standing over him. Rowan fired a warning shot. The blade clattered. The figure leapt away into the shadows. Rowan untied Alex and pressed a hand to his chest. He coughed, blood streaking his lips. "They want the original ledger," he gasped. "He's collecting pages, Detective, and I'm his next ritual." Sirens wailed. Marisol's voice crackled in Rowan's ear. "We're sweeping the perimeter." Rowan guided Alex toward a side exit, but a final glance revealed the wall behind her. Bianca Papillon's face, etched eyes, bloodline for a mouth, orchid petals dripping like tears. A message: "Find me at midnight." Chapter 8. Behind the mask. That afternoon, Rowan confronted Simone Vale under interrogation lights. Simone's calm cracked. She confessed her past. As a child of the cult's inner circle, she'd watched her sister Marina die in Bianca's rites. She'd fled, built the club as a sanctuary, but the ledger's pull was too strong. Simone revealed the identity of the hooded recruiter, art dealer Julian Dwyer, obsessed with living myth. He'd brokered the ledger's pages, orchestrated each murder, and used Emma Carlyle's shipments to mask his crimes. Simone's club was his cover, her network, his unwitting informants. Armed with Simone's testimony, Rowan raided Dwyer's gallery at dusk. Beneath his prized sculptures lay hidden vaults of grim trophies, orchid petals pressed into sealed books, ledger fragments carved into bone. Dwyer stood among them, mask in hand, grin wide. "Welcome," he whispered. "You're just in time for the finale." Chapter 9. Cat and Mouse. Dwyer led Rowan on a twisted game through his subterranean vaults, each corridor booby-trapped with orchids dusted in blinding pollen. He tossed ledger pages down chutes. They fluttered into darkness. "Collect them, Detective," he taunted. Complete the book, and you'll earn mercy. She dodged swinging stiletto blades and shattered mirrors. Marisol and SWAT stormed the galleries above, but Dwyer's tunnels were sealed. Rowan found a hatch leading to Warehouse 17, her midnight rendezvous. She climbed through, gun drawn. Inside, Dwyer awaited, with Alex captive on a dais of orchid crates. A masked cultist held Bianca Papillon's original ledger aloft. "Read the next passage," Dwyer commanded Rowan, "or Alex dies." Rowan kept her voice steady. "Your ritual ends now, Julian." She tossed a flashbang. Chaos erupted, petals swirling like crimson snow. In the smoke, Rowan tackled Dwyer. Steel rang as they grappled. Marisol burst in, cuffing Alex's captor. Chapter 10. Reckoning Dwyer broke free, sprinting toward a service elevator. Rowan swung for his legs, sending both crashing down the shaft. He howled, but clung to a rafter over a pool of murky water. Below, ruined ledger pages floated. Above, Marisol handcuffed the last cultist. Rowan peered into the abyss. Dwyer's voice echoed, "You can't kill an idea, detective." She secured his hands around the beam and hauled him up, adrenaline burning in her arms. Outside, dawn crept through cracked warehouse windows. Dwyer sat on a pallet of orchids, bloodied and defeated. Alex tumbled into Rowan's arms, shaken but grateful. Chapter 11. Final Confession. In the precinct's stark interview room, Dwyer's mask lay on the table. He smirked through split lips. "I resurrected what this city forgot, the power of sacrifice and rebirth." He detailed each murder as a petition to Bianca Papillon's memory, and promised more until the ledger was whole. Simone, called as witness, spoke quietly of her sister's fate, broken by Dwyer's zeal. Emma Carlyle's shipments had only supplied the petals. The killer was Dwyer himself. As Dwyer's confession wound down, Rowan pressed her hand on the orchid brooch at her collar. Justice was a delicate bloom. Chapter 12. Aftermath. Weeks later, rain-slick streets gleamed under neon signs. The cold caseboard lay cleared, photos removed, orchids returned to the Botanical Society. Rowan lit a candle at a small memorial for Marina, Fiona, Layla, and Alex. He'd recovered enough to return to his reporting. She met Simone outside the electric siren. The club's windows were dark, but the neon orchid sign still pulsed faintly. Simone pressed a single white bloom into Rowan's palm. For closure. Rowan tucked it into her coat and walked away. In her pocket, Bianca Papillon's brittle ledger lay sealed in evidence, its final pages never to be read. Under the last quarter moon, she paused on a bridge overlooking the river. Petals drifted on the current, carried toward dawn. As the city stirred awake, Rowan whispered, "Rest now," and let the petals and the past flow away.